Oh, should I start? Okay. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesdays, a day dedicated to gaining valuable insights from individuals with the autism community. Today, we are honored to have with us Thomas Iland, a remarkable advocate, author, and speaker whose journey is nothing short of inspirational. Thomas' story is one of resilience, determination, and triumph. Diagnosed with autism at the age of 13, Thomas embraced his diagnosis and transformed his challenges into opportunities for growth. Today, he is recognized as an author, speaker, and emerging leader in the autism community. Thomas holds the prestigious title of being the world's first Toastmaker accredited speaker with autism, a testament to his exceptional speaking abilities and unwavering dedication. He is a certified human potential coach and professional diversity and inclusion consultant, using his expertise to empower individuals and organizations alike. With the TEDx talk title How to Come to Life and two award winning books under his belt, including Come to Life Your Guide to Self Discovery and My Glass is Full Stories of Putting Mental Health First, Thomas continues to inspire audiences around the globe. Notably, Thomas recently made history by setting a Guinness World Record as the world's oldest person with autism to finish a full Ironman triathlon. Today, he brings his positive energy and inspiring messages to our event as he discusses the importance of putting mental health first in his talk, The Glass is Full. Join us as we learn where Thomas' wisdom's resilience and unwavering commitment to promote mental well-being with autism community and beyond. Thank you so much, Tom, for joining us today for this session. And so I here hand over it to you.
Thank you so much for having me today. And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I hope everyone enjoyed their World Autism Awareness, Acceptance, Appreciation, or Action Day, depending on how you celebrate it and how you recognize people on the autism spectrum in your life. It has really been a very interesting year and continues to be an interesting time for people on the autism spectrum. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about mental health in the autism community. And before I begin and dive into the presentation, I want you to know that I am willing and able to take questions during and after this presentation. So please feel free to comment or chat your questions, and they will be addressed as they come in if and when possible. A little bit about my background for those of you that may not have seen or heard me speak before. I'm based in Los Angeles, California, in the United States of America. I'm 40 years old, and my pronouns are he, him, his. I am a Caucasian man with brown hair and a brown beard, and I'm approximately 6'1" tall. So a little bit about my background. From when I was first diagnosed, I was diagnosed officially at the age of 13 years old, which was late, but not too late, considering that diagnoses can happen as early as 1.5 to 2 years old in some children. But the signs were definitely there from an early age for me. I would line up my toys. There was a time actually where I did not speak for 6 months. I knew how to speak and could speak at one point. I just stopped speaking for about 6 months. When I did start speaking again, I was like a sponge ready to just be unrun. And I could read, I could write, I could spell. It was like I was finally ready to unleash a whole lot in the world. And I went on to have a good relationship with my family, starting with my parents. My parents are still married to this day. They're 43 years. They've been married this August. They live about 1,000 miles north of me now. I'm currently on my own, living with my fiance. I'll tell you a little bit about her later in this presentation. When I was first diagnosed, though, my aunt, that's my mother's sister, was the autism specialist for the state of Illinois here in the United States. And it was suggested that I might be on the autism spectrum, but my mother wasn't hearing any of it. She didn't want to think or believe I was on the spectrum. Oh, Tom, he's just really smart. But my aunt had some other ideas and actually took me for an informal autism screening without my mother's knowledge. And I thought it was just a play date. Like, okay, I'm playing some games, solving some puzzles with my aunt. This is fun. Little did I know that I was being screened for autism. And the diagnostic criteria at the time in the mid 1980s said you had to have an intellectual disability or mental retardation in order to qualify for an autism diagnosis. I don't have an intellectual disability, so no autism diagnosis. But fast forward to the mid 1990s when the diagnostic criteria here in the United States changed. You don't have to have an intellectual disability to fit the criteria for autism. Social difficulties, behavior difficulties, communication difficulties, sensory sensitivities, these particular criteria that fit the bill for being diagnosed with autism. So that's when I got officially diagnosed in the mid 1990s. And wouldn't you agree out there that the definition and the image of autism has really evolved over time since the 1980s? Anybody here seen that movie Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman? Granted, I can't count toothpicks on the floor. I'm pretty good with numbers. I was a certified public accountant for a number of years, but I'm no Rain Man. And Rain Man is not the universal definition of what autism is. But speaking of being good with numbers, I'll tell you a little bit about what I wanted to do when I was a kid. Basically, I knew I was good with numbers, and I loved and still love, in a way, Star Wars. So I made it my goal in life to be George Lucas's accountant. That was my goal. And I told my parents about this, wanting to be George Lucas's accountant. They could have said, Tom, get real. You really think you're going to be George Lucas's accountant? Dream on. Instead, my parents gave me a reality check. They explained to me, okay, you want to be George Lucas's accountant? You have to go to college. You have to pass difficult tests. You have to find work in the entertainment industry. George Lucas isn't going to hire someone right out of high school. And I said to myself and to them, all right, challenge accepted. So I did go on to graduate from high school and eventually a four-year university, got my bachelor's degree in accounting from California State University, Northridge, and went on to work for the Walt Disney Company straight out of college doing property taxes as an intern. And I did that for about 3 tax seasons. After I left Disney, Disney went on to acquire Lucasfilm, George Lucas's company. So the way I see it, retroactively and indirectly, I felt like I was George Lucas's accountant, having worked for his boss, or the company that owns his company now. And I felt like I had accomplished my goal and had that with me. I carried it with me into future jobs. I went on to be in a big 4 accounting firm. If you've ever heard of Deloitte, I worked for them for a summer. Had a couple of temp jobs doing finance, accounting, tax work. Finally secured permanent, gainful employment. And this is a big goal for people in the autism community. Permanent, gainful employment. Finding and keeping a job that allows them to earn their keep, have a sense of purpose, and hopefully make a really good living for themselves and maybe save for a rainy day. So I'd finally gotten to this point. But then I'd found my mental health had taken a turn for the worse. I dreaded getting up early, driving a long distance, sitting at a desk, crunching numbers all day that wouldn't matter in a couple of years. At the same time, I saw and heard more and more stories of my peers on the autism spectrum crashing and burning in life because they did not know themselves. They did not love themselves, and they were not being themselves. And I could feel the physical, mental, and emotional draining from going and being in accounting. So 8.5 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, I put in my 2 weeks notice at my final accounting job, walked away from that career completely, a very steady paycheck, good benefits, because I feel it's my purpose to tell my story and share with you and those in the autism community that may be impacted what power you have, how you can make the world a better place, who you truly are. And I decided to share some of my secrets to success in my first book, Come to Life, Your Guide to Self-Discovery. This is a prequel to Transition. Basically, it helps answer the questions that you may have for your young person. You might sit them down, ask them a lot of things, and they say, I don't know. But this book will help them find the answers, because I've found, particularly growing up, that life doesn't come to you. It's up to you to come to life. You have to go out there and make things happen. Go to where the action is. Even here right now, being in a virtual environment and being engaged, aware of what's happening, taking a step towards bettering your future, that's part of coming to life. So give yourself a pat on the back for being here and taking that initiative to do something different or be the change you want to see in your life, as Gandhi would say. Also, come to life. There's a heavy Spanish-speaking population here in California. So my mother, my co-author, translated the book into Spanish. If you know anybody who speaks Spanish, you can purchase Ven a la Vida. So looking at the career that I've had since leaving accounting, I would say my mental health has improved for the better, but not without certain trials and tribulations. For example, when I left accounting, I really didn't have much of a plan to take on this new career. My mother was a consultant, a family consultant, and had her set of clients and would help by having me present with her. And we did a number of presentations for many years. But on the side, I was also getting my own clients. And I felt that I really needed to step into my own, be my own man, create my own brand. And eventually, my mother and I parted ways business-wise. We still communicate. We see each other at the holidays, speak at least once a month. But business-wise and the journey that I'm on, I'm forging my own path and my own destiny. And I feel that this is something that people on the autism spectrum really need to have the ability and access to do. Be able to find who they are, what they want, and make it a reality. And family members can be helpful, but it also in some ways can be harmful, particularly if we underestimate the capabilities and overlook opportunities for growth in our young people. I think too many people on the autism spectrum are being cooped up. They stay at home, whether they choose to or not, and are not seeing what's out there for them. And I'm going to now dive into some stories about how mental health plays a part in this and what can be done inside and outside the household to better mental health. And I'm going to be using some visual aids that are based on my newest book, My Glass is Full: Stories of Putting Mental Health First. I recently wrote this book in order to describe some incidents I had and what I've learned along the way in order to be better physically, mentally, and emotionally, but particularly when it comes to mental health. Because we're still in the tail end of the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of us are starting to emerge from our isolation, start to embrace how life once was and what life is going to be. And change can be scary. It continues to be scary for people on the autism spectrum. I've discovered, however, ladies and gentlemen, as much as we want consistent, predictable, unchangeable things in our lives, the only consistent, predictable, unchangeable part of our lives is change. It's going to happen whether we want it to or not. When we can embrace that and roll with it, find ways to evolve from it, that makes us better people. And I see a question in the chat here. Some difficulties I went through as a child and in some ways might still struggle with to this day. Knowing if people are being genuine, who's being real with me, or who's looking to deceive me or use me or even abuse me. Because it's not easy always to tell. And I'm guilty of seeing or attempting to see the good in people too much when really they may not be very good, or they have ill will or bad intentions or ulterior motives. The struggle is very real, I think, in the autism community and outside the community. So I definitely went through that and continue to go through that as a child. When I was younger, I've definitely had some experience and some therapy and some coaching and some social skills classes on this. Talking to women, no easy task. Again, I think if you're on the autism spectrum or not, talking to women was not always my forte. But I have found that by having a good understanding mother and sister, my sister taught me a lot about how to talk to women. Like, Tom, girls like a guy who knows how to cook, knows how to dance, knows how to keep himself clean. So then I learned how to cook, I learned how to dance, I learned how to keep myself clean, and then I got dates. And then in return, I helped my sister with her math homework. So it was a little give and take between me and my sister. So knowing who's being genuine versus deceptive, how to talk to women, how to make and keep friends on that note, because I was bullied a lot when I was a kid for being the smart kid, but I was not very socially savvy. Those were some of the difficulties I experienced as a child, and have some struggles similar to back then today, but I've also made some significant improvement. But getting back to the topic of mental health, or actually, I will address this one question, then I'll get to mental health. I have some visual aids I'm going to be addressing, having to do with my glasses full. I have the question here. I can't go to college and hence couldn't do anything. That's why I gave up on everything. How do I get thought in life when get started? If I'm understanding the question correctly, or based on the context why you gave up, I would encourage you, Eric, you're the one asking this question, Eric, I would encourage you to give it another shot. I think when we decide, that's it, I failed, I'm not doing anymore, I'm done, that's when our life starts to spiral out of control, or for the worse. When we decide, I'm all done, I'm just not going to do anything further. Sometimes we have to, and I can certainly speak from experience on this, when we fall, we learn to pick ourselves back up, keep moving forward. And I can definitely speak from experience on that, because you heard about me doing Ironman triathlons, and I have finished 2 Ironman triathlons to date. And I even set and broke my own Guinness World Record as the oldest person with autism to finish a full Ironman triathlon, because determination, bouncing back from failure, learning from our mistakes, that's what's going to make us better people. So Eric, ask yourself, what did you learn from these experiences? What could you maybe do differently in the future so that you can keep moving forward and be a better person later on? Because I think if you give it one more shot, you might see something going different. You might see that things will be better, and that you may even amaze yourself what power you have that you didn't know you had. My fiance just brought in my Guinness World Record. I had this come to me because I asked for it. There was a person with autism out there who had finished an Ironman, was the first person in the world to do it. So I couldn't set or break his first person with autism to finish the Ironman record. But I asked the Guinness World Record people, could I be the first American with autism to finish an Ironman? They said no. Could I be the first Caucasian with autism to finish a full Ironman? Because the gentleman who finished it first is African American, or rather black. They said no. I asked, okay, could I be the first, or rather the oldest person with autism to finish a full Ironman? And the Guinness World Record people said, okay, give us the evidence, we'll put you in the book. So third time was the charm in the ask, but I finally got myself in that book. And I just broke my own world record recently. This is the first. The second one, certificate, is in the other room. It still has to be framed. But the point is, Eric, we need to bounce back from our failures. We need to ask for what we want. So maybe there are some questions you have or need to be asking if you're going to find something better in your life. So I encourage you to see if you can give it another shot, find out what questions you need to be asking, and ask them. I hope that helped. I have another question in here. How do you stay updated on the latest trends and best practices in autism support and coaching? I am involved in a number of social media platforms, and I get invited to conferences and talks like this, where I hear from people just like you out there, and you talk about what you're offering, and I weigh in, give my 2 cents. And if there's ever a new practice that has come about, I'll weigh in if somebody requests my input. And I also, I think, offer, particularly from my own experience, being a certified human potential coach, and I got this designation right before the pandemic. And it seemed to be at the right place at the right time too, because I used Zoom to take my courses as a coach and then implemented what I learned during the pandemic. So many people were asking, you have autism, you've been isolated or know what it feels like to be isolated, rejected, make your own fun at home. How did you get through it? What did you do? So I started sharing my wisdom, my experience, and now I have coaching clients that pay me often, and I guide them to be their best selves. So staying updated on the latest trends and taking an interest in what is happening in the world. I think too many people in the autism community, they're kind of quote unquote stuck in their own world, or they're reading the same books, watching the same movies, doing the same stuff over and over and over again. I too liked to rewind videos when I was younger, watch the same stuff over and over again, read different books. Eventually I got bored. And my family also exposed me to different cultures, different places, different foods. So I had little tastes of it. And at least that exposure, that experience to do something new was, I think, critical to my growth and development. And I think this should be made possible or made to be part of people on the autism spectrum in their lives so that they can see what else is out there for them and keep up to date with the trends so that they don't get left behind doing the same stuff over and over again and eventually fall by the wayside, so to speak. So make sure to stay up to date with what's happening in the world and be willing and able, when possible, to adapt, grow, and evolve with the times. Thank you for that question. Now for my story about mental health and how I came up with the title, My Glass is Full, putting mental health first. So when I first moved to California from Illinois, I discovered it was really, really hot here in the state of California. And I found relief from the heat by drinking water. I had a nice cold glass on a hot day. Here's where the visual aids come in. So water helped me a lot during those hot days when I first moved to California. It's refreshing. Well, one day, heat exhaustion got the better of me, and as I was pouring the water, I did not stop, and the water spilled. Got a little bit of water. There's a towel in my lap, so don't worry about the overflow. But basically, my family was present, saw me spill the water, and we decided at that moment, whenever I felt stressed, overloaded, or had enough, I would say, the glass is full. This was our code word for I can't talk anymore. Please stop. All I had to do was say the glass is full, and the family would back up and shut up. Pardon the harshness in that, but that was where I was at as far as sensory overload, information overload. Basically, we had to say and do something that would help me process information or allow me to take a breather, and I think allow the family to take a breather too. Have you ever needed a break out there? You just want to say, stop, I need a break. In our family, it was the glass is full. That was the cue to stop. And I want to encourage, before I go a little bit further, because there's more to this glass story, but I want to encourage family members to start thinking about a safe word or phrase that you can use within your family to say or imply, stop. We need to take a break. We need to think for a while and not be offended. But I think we need to just hit the pause button. And for our family, it was the glass is full. Now, as I got older, I had some new experiences in my life. I got used to the California heat as I grew up, but then I was suddenly exposed to more and more information. In my early 20s, the digital era was among us with more online information. And I found I could handle a little bit more. So think of your glass as all the information that you can handle at a given moment, or your capacity as to what you can process or take. So you saw my glass from earlier, and now it's 10 years later or so. My glass has evolved some. But all that information, I still found it very, very overwhelming at times. And it made a few more messes in my life, spilled a little bit more water there. Basically, I hadn't quite learned how and when to say the glass is full. Learning how and when to say the glass is full. And here's another bit of information I learned along the way. When your glass or your child's glass is full, give them time to ingest and digest information, sensory sensations, processes. Let them take it in. Because I found that if I take a drink, quench that thirst, then I can go on. So let me drink this up. All right, now I'm ready for more information. So give your young people, your children, whatever you might call them, the opportunity to bring that level down or even to full capacity where they can receive more before you keep pouring. Am I making sense out there? And I will address the question about playing skills in a moment after I get through this particular part of the presentation. So now fast forward a few more years. I'm now in my early 30s and I'm starting to better manage the heat and the information flow, if you will. But now I'm discovering more and more how complex relationships can be, particularly those with women. And I thought information was a lot. There's a lot of complex emotions involved in a relationship. But my glass had gotten a little bit bigger and it evolved some more. And I was in a relationship with a woman with autism. I thought it was serious. I thought it was going to go well, but it turns out I wasn't happy in this particular relationship many, many years ago. I wanted to say something, but I didn't. I thought that let me lower it a little bit here. I thought that keeping the peace and quiet would allow the relationships to stay afloat, but instead, overflow. It got messy. I was still learning how and when to say the glass is full. And I eventually broke up with this young woman. And I was parched after that relationship. And I needed a big drink. This rate, I'm giving Aquaman a run for his money. But now looking at today, I mentioned I have a fiance. I now consider my glass to be very delicate. I didn't become an alcoholic, but I'm now engaged, and I consider my fiance to be the stem to my glass. She supports me during my struggles and understands my limits. So when we go through that information and emotion overflow, just when we think we have it all figured out, even more comes, even more information and emotions. But we both understand our limits and when they're about to be exceeded, and we can safely say, the glass is full. We stop pouring before the overflow takes place. So I ask you out there, what are you doing to see the signs of near overflow or stopping the flow of information before a mess is made? What are you doing to ask yourself, when is enough enough? Will I say the glass is full or its equivalent before the overflow happens? If your glass does or must overflow, may it be with or from happiness, prosperity, love, peace, and health. Those are the things that I want to make a toast to. happiness, prosperity, love, peace, and happiness in your lives, and in particular, the lives of people on the autism spectrum. Cheers. So the moral of this story, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world of never-ending information and sensations. And as much as it might be nice to have access to all of that, it may actually be harmful to us physically, mentally, and emotionally, particularly if it's left unchecked. I encourage you to ask yourselves the important questions. What does my glass look like? What am I filling it with? Who's supporting me? When is enough enough? Will I say the glass is full before the overflow? And the people with autism in your lives need to be able to have access to, or the opportunity to see what their limits are. And their limits need to be respected. Because when we give them too much, keep pouring that water when they can't handle anymore, or they could be figuratively choking on what you are pouring down their throat, how can you expect them to be all right? Or to learn what you are attempting to tell them or teach them? Please be mindful and respectful of the limits that people on the autism spectrum have. You'd be amazed of the changes that can happen. And let them digest that information. Let them process it in their own time, not yours. I think too many people on the autism spectrum don't want to rock the boat. They want to please others, and they're not establishing or enforcing enough boundaries in life. And that's something that has taken me almost 40 years to ultimately master, knowing and speaking for my limits. May you be mindful of your limits and the limits of your children, adults, what have you, on the autism spectrum, so that they may be respected and adhered to. I'll now address the question in the chat here. My children haven't got playing skills either. How could I help them? When it comes to playing skills and other skills sets that are taught along the way, be mindful that your child is still learning. And it may have to be told to the other children or the teachers involved, so-and-so is still learning how to share. So-and-so is still learning how to take turns. It doesn't mean they can't learn. It means they are still learning. So playing might not come naturally to people on the autism spectrum. Or I should say playing with other children or other people may not come naturally to young children. But if we can clue in, I think and my mother too thinks inclusion is cluing in the peers, the children, the friends of the child on the spectrum, clue them in, explain that so-and-so is still learning how to do something. And maybe, just maybe, those children can help fill those gaps, bridge that information, give that child what they need to know to better share, play, take turns, or what have you. So see how the young children can maybe help by explaining the child is still learning how to do what needs to be done. I hope that helped answer your question, Abby. Eric also asked the question, what obstacles did you encounter while attempting to attend college, particularly when considering your disability or communication difficulties? Despite my efforts, I was repeatedly denied access to college. Can you share more about your experiences, including any potential legal actions you may pursue due to these denials? Additionally, at the age of 30, being advised to stay home without pursuing education seems unjust. How can others assist me in overcoming these challenges and accessing the educational opportunities I deserve? Okay, well, that's quite a lot to unpack, Eric, so I'll address it a few steps at a time here. First, basically, I knew from a young age I wanted to be an accountant, so ask yourself, or if anybody you might be on your team, so to speak, what do you want to be? Do you have an idea of what you want to be, first and foremost? If you don't, you may have to go out there and see what floats your boat or what really resonates with you, and see what makes your heart sing as well. because people can suggest things to you, but if you're not interested or you don't like that particular trade or line of work, you'll have to find out what you like. So whenever possible, find out what you like, because I think there are too many people on the autism spectrum that are going or attempting to go to college without having any idea of what they want to do. So they'll just take a random general education course here and there, just going to college to go to college. And like some parents will say, if you want to live with me, you have to go to school or get a job. And if job is too difficult or they don't know what they want, then they're going to school. So it's just class after random class after random class, not really working towards a degree, a diploma, or certificate of completion. So whenever possible, know what you want or have an idea of what you want first, so you can take the courses that start going towards a degree whenever possible. Second, I don't know where you are in the world, Eric, but here in the United States, we have the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Center on Disabilities at the colleges that I went to a community college first and then transferred to a four-year university, was able to take the credits I'd earned from community college, apply them to a four-year university. I had to request accommodations, examples of accommodations for a college environment, more time on a test, taking a test in a private room versus in a classroom, having someone take notes for me, and having a transition plan or something like a diagnostic paper, something from a board certified psychologist or similar professionals saying and justifying you have a difficulty with information processing, or you have a lot of pressure when time is of the essence. Like you have 1 hour to complete this test, but you need more time. Or speaking from my own personal experience, anybody not like the people that clear their throats or cough a lot in class? It's really distracting. I got distracted and was even a little bit of a germaphobe when people were getting sick or appearing sick in class. So I requested my own room to take a test, and that was granted to me. So that's number two. Number one, knowing what you want or figuring out what you want first. Number two, requesting accommodations. And it may be difficult to make that ask, requesting accommodations, because you might have first not much of an idea of what your diagnosis is, what kind of help you need, or what kind of help is available. So there may be a few questions you might need to ask, Eric, of your university as to how they can help someone like you, or what you struggle with, what accommodations are available. So asking the right questions whenever possible will help in a college environment. And mind you, when you can ask the right people, and if you have a plan, or in maybe a law in the case of the Americans with Disabilities Act in the United States, you can show like this is illegal if they're not accommodating you accordingly. And you may or may not need an attorney. I personally have not needed an attorney during these experiences. If you rely on facts, data, statistics, and also that these accommodations that you're requesting align with your goal. If you have a goal, a legit goal, and the educational system involved is not helping you meet that goal, that's a problem. So I encourage you, Eric, to ask yourself some more questions, or ask yourself what you want, what you need, and then help yourself to asking the right questions. And I'm available for coaching, Eric, if you'd like to contact me through cometolifecoaching.com. I'll put that in the chat here. And it's also in my name description here. Come to Life Coaching, Eric. You can reach out to me there. We can schedule a consultation call and see where you're at and where you want to be. So thank you for your questions, Eric. I'm currently not seeing any other Zoom questions. We're at about just over 30 minutes here. I welcome any other questions that you may have out there. I really appreciate your contributions and your participation. Not seeing any questions in the moment, but I'll tell you a little bit about what I've got on the horizon here. You heard in my introduction earlier that I am a Toastmasters International Accredited Speaker. This is a designation that only 93 people in the world hold, and I'm the only person with autism to become a Toastmasters International accredited speaker. This is someone who has mastered the art of public speaking and applies it to a particular trade or line of work. In my case, I assist the autism community and give speeches like this. And the way I see it, autism is a social communication disorder. Public speaking is essentially socializing and communicating. So if I can do this, imagine what kind of barriers you can break, what kind of obstacles you can overcome, what kind of ceilings and stereotypes you can shatter. I want to show myself, my peers, and the world that it can be done. But that's not enough for me, the accredited speaker designation. I want to become the next what's called World Champion of Public Speaking. Toastmasters International has a contest every year, the World Championship of Public Speaking. I am currently in the process of giving speeches to get me to the World Championship of Public Speaking. It's going to be in Anaheim, California, the United States of America. Right where the organization started. We're celebrating our 100th anniversary as an organization, Toastmasters International. We're going to be going to like the Mecca of the organization, back to where it all started in Anaheim. And that's just a couple minutes drive from me. So I'm looking to go all the way this year. And you might be looking at the very first World Champion Public Speaking on the autism spectrum. Mark your calendars for Saturday, August 17th, 2024. Saturday, August 17th. When I make it to the final 8, you'll see me speak on the stage for the world to see and hear. That's what I've got on the horizon. Renee Bright says, very informative, Tom. Thank you. Thank you very much for your comment, Renee. Do we have any other questions or comments coming through? We have a question from Custub. I hope I pronounced that correctly. What would you say are some pivotal moments or decisions that significantly shape a mental health journey? Great question. Pivotal moments or decisions that significantly shape a mental health journey? First and foremost, I have a mantra I'll share with you. It's the basis for my book, Come to Life. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Understanding who you are as a person, first and foremost, particularly a diagnosis, if you have one, what you do well and where you can improve, and also knowing that it's okay to not know everything. You don't have to be perfect. I thought I had to be perfect a long time ago, but I realized I make mistakes. I don't always get it right. Even the smartest people in the world fail, make mistakes, but they keep on going. And live a life that is true and authentic to you, Custub. Live a life that is true and authentic to you. Because a lot of people can give you suggestions, ideas, options, but at the end of the day, you are the one that has to live your life. Make every effort you can to be happy with the life that you are creating, and don't put your life or your happiness or your future in someone else's hands. I think too many people in the autism community do that. They think other people will figure this out for me. I don't have to do anything. I'm stuck where I am. There's nothing I can do. That's not true. There's always something that can be done to improve yourself and your future, starting by seeing that you are worth it. You are worth it. We all have a life to live. We might as well make the most of it and make the world a better place while we are at it. So those are my suggestions to you, Custub, about shaping a mental health journey and bettering yourself mentally. Thank you for that question. Renee asks, how do you help people on the autism spectrum in coaching? Renee, I help people on the autism spectrum in coaching see that they have the power. I think too many people on the autism spectrum are giving their power, their decision-making ability to other people. Like I mentioned with Custub, leaving their future, their fate in other people's hands. I'm encouraging people to speak up, to find their voice and use it so that their life is one that they want, that they are living, and they're not living a life to please others or to do something for somebody else all the time. Ironically, autism comes from the Greek word autos, which means self. So I feel that people on the autism spectrum have a slight advantage about looking out for themselves, making sure they are all right first, like putting their oxygen mask on first before assisting others. but they may not always do it. They want to care about other people. They think if I help or please others first, they'll like me or I'll be good. No, we need to make sure, number one, yourself are doing all right before you help others. When you are your best self, you can help others become their best selves too. So I make sure when I coach people on the autism spectrum that they are okay, first and foremost. And it's okay not to be okay, but I'm going to help them see that they can do what they want in this world when they put their mind and their heart to it. That's what I do in coaching. Thank you for that question, Renee. Rosa asks, you are amazing and give us parents so much hope. What do you think has helped you the most? What has helped me the most has seeing that I'm capable of a lot more than even I think I am sometimes. And parents, it is your job to show your children that they can live a life without you, because that is going to happen one day. Parents, you are not going to be around forever. And you need to show your children, or at least guide them towards the reality that they will or should be okay when you are no longer around. Because my dad recently retired. My parents still do a little bit of financial support for me. I'm finding my own way financially. But knowing that he is retired actually gave me a little ka-choom. Like, I need to really step up my game. Because I want to. And I owe my dad that. He worked for so many years in that corporate environment that I walked away from. He stayed in it for decades until he retired. So I owe it not just to him, but to myself to be a better man. And I have accepted that my parents are not going to be around forever. You and your children need to be accepting that you are not going to be around forever. And prepare for that. That I think has helped me the most, Rosa. Thank you for the question. Custub says, thank you so much. I'll make sure to work on everything you have suggested. And Renee says, thank you for answering my question. I appreciate you. Keep touching the, looks like it cut off at the end there. Keep touching the, but I appreciate your comments and questions, Renee. Anything else from the audience? We've been going for about 45 minutes now. I can go longer. Can continue this conversation now or later. Here I am. What have you got?
Hi, Tom.
All right.
So finally, we come to the end of this session. I hope everyone has find today's conversation with you as enriching as you are. So finally, like coming to the end, I would like the audiences to just leave any further comments if they have, or any questions in the comment box below. And we will definitely get in touch with Tom, or we'll just leave his website in the comments below. So if anybody is interested to get in touch with you, they can directly do that. And thank you so much, Tom, for sharing your story with us. And thanks to everyone who joined us today. So until next Wisdom Wednesday, may we continue to learn, grow, and uplift each other. Take care and see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Are we still live? We off?
Yes, just a second. I'll just end it.
All right. Yeah. I'll stay on as long as you need. I'm gonna take another drink of water.